Guys, time is the only resource that we can't get more of. And I want to commit as much time as possible to putting out content that helps more people just like you. The only way that I can do that is if you like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Please give me feedback and help me help you. Hey guys, everybody shut up. I want to talk a little bit about something. I talked for a long time yesterday with a very smart guy. Doesn't know how smart he is. He's very humble. He's smart, hungry, humble. And he used these words. We're talking about hiring, scaling, systems, processes, all this stuff that's like crazy. Turn that down. Don't answer it. And he used these phrases for hiring. So I think originally, to give credit where credit's due, this was Dante Cantu. I drink a Red Bull and now I'm burping. The Ideal Team Player by Patrick M. Lencioni. He's a good author. I haven't read this, but he was explaining these are the 3 attributes he would look for when he was hiring for Go Medigap, which is a business that he sold. It was a really, really high efficiency machine with good culture, and he had some really cool stuff he was telling me, like, this is an interesting one that a lot of you like. In his office, when he was hiring, people had to be okay with dogs being there because he allowed everybody there to bring their dogs to the office. So, yeah, couldn't care about some of the things that come with that. But it was a cool thing, I just thought it was cool because it was like a quirky thing that he believed that people that like dogs and were okay with that were better human beings, and so that they were easier to get along with. But smart, hungry, humble. What does that mean? You have to be intelligent enough to understand the subject matter. Who thinks Medicare and all of its intricacies is really easy? It's not. There's a lot to it. Especially as you get in. It's why we try to phase in, like Jackson's doing Medigap rewrites right now. Master that. Then we move on to maybe some of the T65 scenario, the education. And then months later, start doing the health insurance. We kind of in the past, depending on the person, somebody would come in and be like, oh, you could do health insurance, you can do all this. But tackling all that at one time is a lot. So if we come in phases, that's the way to try to train, is come in phases. Give somebody 4 or 5 companies to work with a certain product set, and then start building upon that as they gain knowledge over time. But somebody still has to be smart. That's where we missed the mark with Rob. He's not very smart.
That's true.
Okay? But what is Rob? Rob is hungry.
Yes.
Okay? I'm just kidding. Rob is very smart. Smart, hungry, humble. I want all 3. Hungry. What is hungry? Somebody has to have a little bit of a desire for a better life. Do they have to be the guy that's like, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire? No, because that can get sometimes those guys can get a little bit hard to deal with and control. Not saying that they can't make money or they're capped or anything like that, but you don't want somebody that is, arrogant and hard to get along with, which comes into the humble part. Smart, hungry, humble. I think he calls it hungry, humble, smart, or humble, hungry, smart, or whatever. But I like this order because it's like SHH, get it? Smart, hungry, humble. So that's all I wanted to chat about this morning. In your hiring process, as we're trying to think about things and share information, there's a ton of knowledge that I got from him yesterday about fielding resumes quickly, how to get the 80% out off the bat. It'd be funny though for the people that are trying to get jobs out there to hear what people who are mass hiring do. Like, they put little tricky things in the request for a resume on Indeed and LinkedIn, and the people that don't follow that one step, they don't even look at their resume. They just fill them out automatically. And there's so many people that just click a button like submit resume. They didn't read the directions. Just say, if you don't have a cover letter formatted like X, we're automatically filling it out. And they don't even read it. The guy could be a neurosurgeon or something. Doesn't matter. You didn't follow directions. Because I need somebody that can follow directions and learn. There are other things too that they talked about, but the hiring process is something that as you I think especially even for a small office is really important, because when you're really, small and trying to hire, you actually can be more selective. The bigger you get, and this is on the flip side, we have people that we're talking to right now trying to help them figure out how to hire. They're trying to net 30 new agents a week, or not a week, a month. 30 new agents a month on staff, not like recruited, but like 30 new agents on staff, paid $15 an hour plus commission. And that's a difficult thing to do, believe it or not. Very difficult. They're going through 200 resumes a day. 200 resumes a day right now. So 1,000 a week, because they're doing a five-day work week. 1,000 a week, and they're netting 15 new agents a month off of 4,000 resumes they're going through. So that's how selective they are. And that's not like, they're not like hiring COOs or anything. These are just, agents that they're plugging into a system, working from home, making $15 an hour when they're on there, and, having them like app bonuses per app. Anyway, hiring can be difficult, but when you're smaller, you can be even more selective than they are. So Dante actually said it cost him $2,500 to hire one person, because of the amount of resumes he was buying and taking the Wonderlic. He would actually drug test them once he picked them, and then what was the other thing? Did a background report on them too.
Did he do this, Thomas?
No, Wonderlic.
Wonderlic. Oh, Wonderlic is the same test that the college quarterbacks take to get drafted for the NFL, and it gauges like their intelligence and their IQ.
Yeah, he would do the Wonderlic, which he said, it's not particularly relevant, which one you use. You just need to have some sort of personality test. He said the reason for the personality test is if you get the real big personality test like the Wonderlic, you can read all the answers to their questions, and then you bring them in for a second interview, and you can read a question to them that you thought was an interesting answer and ask them why they answered it that way.
Sure.
And he said it was odd because they'd start like coming up with all this stuff to explain it, and when they in their explanation, you would be like, oh crap, like they would start explaining things like, well, like his example verbatim was like, they'd say, well, why did you answer this way? That was an interesting answer. And they'd say, I don't know, when I took that, me and my wife had just left me, and I was going 3 weeks sober. It's like, oh, shit, this is important information. But he said it was funny because when they'd start getting into asking like those questions back and ask them to explain it, they would uncover things that you couldn't just outright ask, or it was difficult to just outright ask. So anyway, any questions on hiring or team building? So some of you that want to team build, if there's somebody on Facebook that has any questions about hiring, I'd love to do my best at answering it. And anybody that's in here that's in some capacity, Johnny and Rob and Stephen are helping us build and recruit. Do y'all have any questions about who we would look for and things we would look for?
Yeah, I think you would speak to this. I think it's interesting that you can find smart, hungry people, but this as alpha male. I think humility is not a natural thing that comes for a lot of very driven, maybe a false humility, but can you talk about the humble side? Like for you, what does that mean to you, the humility side of things?
So in talking to him, this is an interesting thing because from his perspective comes from more of the book that I was just talking about where this quote comes from. But then there's also like there's books like Chet Holmes has one called The Ultimate Sales Machine that we had all read a while back. And he actually talked about hiring people with egos so big they were hard to control because of how much they would produce. Dante, when he was building, when culture is a big part of your aspect and you're trying to build a team that vibes well together, it's not really, you don't really want someone who is alpha and is like super, super driven. You just don't. You don't want them to. There's a scale of drivenness. When I think it's dangerous to overhire yourself, is if you're the guy taking all the risk and building a team and stuff. It says there's a different trait in your personality that if you're looking for that exact replica in someone to work within your entity, you end up, and what he said, was telling me, like, you end up training people out that always think, well, I can do it better, and they're hard to control. And that's just a fact of it. So, but when you have a viable, good lead source and a process to hire into, you need someone that's in that mid-range. You want someone that's okay, like you find somebody that's young and intelligent and humble and easy to get along with and polished, but they can't figure out how to make more than $30,000, $35,000, $40,000 a year, and in year one you're able to get them to $70,000, $75,000, $80,000 a year. They're happy with that. They're super happy with that. It was very difficult for them to climb out of that. Sales is one of those avenues where you can climb into that next echelon, and they're happy with it. You don't have to hire the guys like, I want to be a millionaire, I want to be Warren Buffett. Because if you do, imagine somebody who hired Warren Buffett when he was 25. They weren't going to keep him. You know what I mean? So now Chet Holmes would say, hire Warren Buffett, harness him for 5 years, and then set him free. So it's different models. But then there's also the culture aspect of what is that guy like? He's a top performer, but you can't build your business on the top, biggest, best performer of all time. You have to build your business on that consistent, level-headed person that is smart, hungry, and humble. But just a little bit of hungry. Somebody's like, all right, I'm making $100,000. I'm working this, and I'm going to keep that pace up, and I'm happy with that. It's not. You don't always need big D's like Johnny brought. Yeah. You don't always need big D's, and big D's. Sometimes when they're in big disc assessment, when I say big D's, just so everybody knows, there's a thing. There's in the disc assessment, D is dominance, and people like Johnny and Rob can sometimes come out on there with a real high D and high DI side, and that typically means they're very, especially if it's just high D like Johnny's was. It's very like, this is what I'm doing, but those people really need to realize that they're part of a machine, and it doesn't matter how good you are. You can only do so much by yourself. You can't. It doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, unless you're damn Superman, and you're not Superman. You can only do so much by yourself, and so you have to begin to. As I believe that it's possible for someone who was high D over time to retake a disc assessment after they learn something and be more DI or DI. They start to change the way that they view things, because it's not all about me and what I can do. It's about what can we build together. And let's say you're in your, I've talked to a lot of people from Medicare Gurus and other places that have reached out to me for consulting on stuff that are making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year working out of their house, selling insurance. They've been doing it forever, and they're doing a great job. When I talk to them, I think, what else do you want? I mean, it's a pretty good deal you got going here. And a lot of them are really lonely in the process. They're working from their home, and they're depressed because they don't have the culture that we have here. I think Stark would attest to that. Stark was out in the field, and he was not doing bad. He was doing good. But he even felt like he lacked the culture and the. You get to a point where you're like, man, okay, I'm doing good, but I'm burnt out. I don't have anybody to celebrate with. So the culture is a big part of it for a lot of people. It's a big part of it for me. So anyway, any other questions on there?
Nope, nobody's engaging.
Nobody's engaging.
Well, you took in a culture. We talked about culture earlier, and that's the one thing here that you've heard it. I think you said somebody called you the other day and talked about it. And people go, you actually look like you guys are friends having fun selling a lot of apps.
Yeah.
And they think some people think it's a put on, and it really isn't. The Chet Holmes guy, there are people that just love that churn and burn culture. Bring them in, harvest them, get them out. Bring us in. That seems like it'd be very exhausting, but there are some personalities that's what they love, the churn and burn.
Yeah, and I think if you're a sales trainer, you're like, yeah, I'm looking for the ultimate sales machine, But for me, the machine is the business, not the individual.
Right.
That individual, like Rob, go get your trophy real quick.
Okay.
Rob was our top sales guy last year. He's going to get his trophy
I'm
just
humbly doing this
to prove it. Rob's our top sales guy. What
Catch it, Sam.
how many How many apps did you write here?
I don't know.
Rob?
Ask Steven. It was over 1,300, I think. I don't remember.
Okay. So Rob's the top sales guy. 1,300 apps. He'd be hard for him to write a whole lot more than that,
Sure.
right?
There's a lot.
So like, but how many did the office write?
Get this.
You know, I don't know. I don't even know. 6,000 or something. I don't know. But when you have, you know, your top guy, you can't just base everything off of the top guy.
Right.
And could Rob have written 1,300 apps without an office that did what it did with the support element to it, the camaraderie, the pushing? You know, it's easy to like think, okay, I'm winning pretty strong, 10, 15 apps in when you don't have, like, I used to think I was doing good when I was writing 5 apps. Then I get other people around and they're writing this, and it would always drive me because I wanted to be at the top. Then you guys got so good, I was like, I can't sell anymore. Y'all are selling, I'll do something else. It's too competitive. But that it's easy to think you're doing really good without people doing great things around you. So anyway, that's the culture, the camaraderie side of it.